The gardeners have planted white roses when I specifically asked for red.
You could always paint the roses red.
What an odd thing to say.
I know I'm gonna piss a lot of people off with this video. Definitely a little bit nervous for the response, but at the same time, I just really want people to hear me out because I think this is a really serious topic and I'm kind of tired of it. So there's this trend on TikTok where everyone is self-diagnosing themselves with neurodivergent mental health disorders such as autism and ADHD. Those are the primarily two ones that I see being self-diagnosed the most. They're not getting any evaluations, they're not getting any diagnosis done. They're just simply doing based off what they see on like TikTok. Maybe they write it off WebMD or some other place off the internet where it's not reliable enough to formally diagnose you. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't think self-diagnosis is valid. I know the comments are gonna be foaming at the mouth. I just want to explain myself. At least let me explain myself. Just hear what I have to say, okay? I find self-diagnosis to be very harmful, and I just want to explain why. So let's get into it right now. If someone suspects that they have ADHD or autism, this is how I believe it should correctly be done, because self-diagnosis does not equal a real diagnosis. So if you believe that you are autistic, you have ADHD, it is perfectly valid to say, I suspect that I may have ADHD due to XYZ, or I think I'm autistic because of XYZ. There is a huge difference between suspecting and thinking than outright claiming that you have something that you don't actually know that you have. That is self-awareness. And I absolutely respect those who are self-aware. They know that they're not just outright claiming they have something when they may not, and they are suspecting it. I think those are two entirely different things, and that I can be on board with 100%. Okay? I personally believe that TikTok and social media has made TikTok and ADHD as some sort of quirky thing to have. And the fact that it's becoming trendy, which really disgusts me. Say, like, every little quirk is somehow gonna make you neurodivergent. Oh, you blink a lot, you must be neurodivergent. You fidget a lot, you must be neurodivergent. Bad with time, you got ADHD. You're introverted and you can't make eye contact. Oh, you must be autistic. That's not how it works. It's so dangerous. And I say this as somebody who is actually neurodivergent myself and has an actual formal diagnosis. I want to talk about my background really quick with autistic kids because I feel like it's really important and relevant to this conversation. When I lived in San Francisco, my first job was that I worked with autistic kids of all ages, even up to 23, which is obviously an adult age. Some had low support needs, and then some had very high support needs where they probably will not be able to live independently. These weren't just quirky kids that I was working with. Some of these kids were nonverbal, some of them had severe meltdowns, some of them can't toilet train themselves, and some of them needed one-on-one support 24/7. I don't think people understand how severe autism can be, and it is on a spectrum. But what I want to note is that I do not support ABA therapy. Yes, that's the position that I was in. I left the field after 2 years when I realized this wasn't helpful for kids who had autism, and I felt like it was abusive. I made a whole podcast episode about this, actually, if you want to listen to it, as to why I left the industry. It's a good episode. But to me, yeah, I felt like that was all about, like, compliance and discipline, and it was never really about compassion or truly helping kids at all. So when I see people out here online, like, romanticizing autism and thinking that it's some quirky little thing, it brings me back to the kids that I used to work with, and also to some of my friends here in Portland that have autism that I have seen struggle with it and how it impacts their daily lives, and how I think about my kids and how it severely impacted their lives. Shit pisses me off. And then there's me, as I mentioned earlier, who is actually diagnosed with ADHD. I got diagnosed with it in college when I started seeing my grades slip and I was studying and I was having other learning disabilities getting in the way, and then I got diagnosed and was on medication for it. I'll tell you, having ADHD absolutely sucks. It can be incredibly disruptive and debilitating in my life. Sometimes I will forget to go to things. Sometimes I am so paralyzed that I can't do tasks. I experience a lot of executive dysfunction. I space out a ton when I talk because my brain has a hard time processing things consistently, which is why I'll take weird pauses when I talk. And I always edit those out of my video. I just don't like it when people throw out ADHD symptoms and then claim it's ADHD. I've seen so many awful, harmful TikTok shop ads saying that every little single thing is caused by ADHD or could be a reason that you potentially could have ADHD. Like, that stupid gum, don't even get me started on that. But having ADHD sucks. It's not something that we should be glamorizing and being like, I'm an ADHD girly or ADHD core. It's not fun. It's not something that we need to even aestheticize either. So let's talk about like why this matters. When everyone claims that they have a diagnosis that they did not formally get, it's going to make people stop taking those who actually have a real diagnosis seriously, which is awful. Sometimes it's hard to like scroll on TikTok, and when people who claim that they have ADHD or autism, I don't know who actually has it because self-diagnosis has become so popular on the app that I don't know if I should actually believe them or not, and that's not how it should be. There are so many people that struggle with stuff like this every single day. And honestly, I feel like self-diagnosis just makes a mockery out of the actual disorder, and I can't stand for that. But we need to talk about the nuances when it comes to this. So I know you've probably pissed me off being like, well, it's a privilege to have a diagnosis. Not everyone can afford it. Let's talk about it because I'm totally with you, okay? So listen, I know getting a diagnosis is expensive. I know getting a diagnosis is not always going to be accessible. I know the wait times are very long to get. I also am completely aware that doctors will miss symptoms of autism and ADHD, and they are also not taken seriously in women, people of color, and those who are queer. Trust me, I'm fully on board. And these are all separate issues that could be a whole other video. They're valid. I'm not ignoring that, okay? So I get why people want to self-diagnose, but just because you can't afford it or you don't want to wait or you don't have access to it doesn't mean that you still need to self-diagnose. That still doesn't make it valid, unfortunately, because you may not have access to it. I hate to break it to you. And again, there is a difference between exploring that option and suspecting you have it as opposed to flat out claiming you have something that you may actually don't have. You wouldn't say you have diabetes because your blood sugar levels are fluctuating. You wouldn't say that you have epilepsy because you had a seizure. Same stuff goes to like having autism or ADHD. Just because you're experiencing a symptom or a trait, that doesn't necessarily mean you have it. Here's the thing, if you have the means to do so and you are serious about finding out whether you have autism, ADHD, or any other mental health disorder, please go get evaluated and get a formal diagnosis. Now, if you don't have the means to do so, that is okay. I am going to provide some resources that can help to see if they are available in your area in the next segment of this video. But say you're exploring, say you're unsure, say you suspect it, but just don't claim it. It's just not the right thing to do. Autism and ADHD are real, and there's a lot of nuance, and they do come with its challenges, even those who do have zero to low support needs. However, if the only exposure you have to figuring out whether you think you may have autism or ADHD is social media, and your daily life really isn't being impacted in a meaningful way, then you really need to reflect before claiming that label as like your whole identity. Let's say you are interested in getting diagnosed. Here are some things that you can do to try to find affordable and accessible options. Now, I can't guarantee you that the wait times will be short, but this is what I have looked up on different methods. Psychology Today has a huge resource and list of psychologists and psychiatrists that are going to be available in your area, and check to see who has sliding scale fee options, because they will work with your budget in terms of what you can afford. This is kind of like what I did in my ChatGPT video where you shouldn't be using them as a therapist. We're going to do the same thing here. ADHD Online has a cheaper neurological evaluation online if you are looking to get evaluated for ADHD. Check to see what community health clinics and mental health centers are in your area. A lot of them are usually nonprofits or they have super affordable options. So it's really important that you do a Google search to see what is out there. I think that is something a lot of people don't realize that they can do, is go to those clinics and centers. Also, university research programs and centers will offer free evaluations. And if you are a student in college, this is separate from like the research center, check your school's mental health services and see if they offer psychological evaluations and if being tested for something like ADHD or autism is available to you there. That typically comes with your tuition. That's another thing you can do. There are ways to get help and to find out what can be affordable to you, what can be accessible to you, but I promise you TikTok is not the place to do it. So if anyone wants to get mad at me, I'm sure you're already mad at me by now. I am genuinely coming from a good place here. I really am. I am protecting real people who actually have these issues and struggle with autism and ADHD. It's about keeping a medical diagnosis rooted in reality. And if this whole video has offended you, I just really need you to ask yourself why. Because if you actually cared about neurodivergent folks, you'd care about respecting their actual lived experiences. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Have you ever suspected that you've had something and then you find out you genuinely did have it? I'd love to hear your story. So comment down below. And if you liked this video, do make sure you give it a thumbs up and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!